Okay, let's just jump right into it. As you can see, before the main method, the body of the main method, I have declared and defined 7 different methods for each arithmetic operation the program should execute. We have a method for addition, we have a method for subtraction, multiplication, division, and for scientific mode we have the sine method, the cosine method, and we have the tangent method, and the last 3 methods are utilizing the math methods. All the prompts in these 7 different methods are according to the description of the problem in Zybooks to the letter. After this, we are entering the main method where I have declared a scanner object for the keyboard input, and this is utilized in both the main methods and the other arithmetic methods above. Then I have three string variables. The first one is going to store the decision of the user to use either standard or scientific mode. The second one is going to be storing the decision of the user to use which arithmetic operation. And we have the last string operator called over, which will store the decision of the user to use the code one more time after a certain arithmetic operation has been executed. And this variable works together with a Boolean variable that I named again, initialized to truth, to decide if the code should be executed one more time or not. Since we're on that subject, the whole main method is encased in a while loop, and the first iteration of the whole main method is granted since the value of the Boolean type variable again is initialized to truth. This we're gonna, at the end of the code, we're gonna have a opportunity to change the argument stored in this Boolean type later in the code. We are prompting the user to either enter a standard or scientific mode that is going to be stored in the variable called mode, as I explained, after which we're going through a while loop. The while loop is there to determine if the user enters something different than the set of inputs we want to set for the user. If the user enters something that differs from standard or scientific, starting with a capital S, the while loop will prompt the user to enter it one more time and store it into mode. And this while loop will iterate until the user enters the correct mode. After this while loop, we want to check if the user entered standard, in which case the code will respond that it's working in standard mode and will prompt the user to end a valid operator. And if the user did not enter standard, at this stage of the code, we know that in that case, the user entered a scientific mode. Then the calculator will the program will prompt the user that it's working in scientific mode, and it's prompting the user to enter a operator for it. This part of the code is from the earlier stages of development where I wanted to check if my arithmetic methods work. After I was happy with the way they were working, I encased them into a comment and I just left them there. Operator will be storing the string data type variable operator will be storing the operator. Then we want to check if the user is working in standard mode. If it is, we have another while loop that determines if the user is entering a valid or invalid operator. In case the user does not enter a valid operator, the code will prompt the user to enter it again and store it again in the operator variable. After this while loop is executed as many times as needed, we use a switch statement to determine which method we want to call upon. Plus for addition, minus for subtraction, case for multiplication, asterisk for multiplication, and this little slash for division. Then we do the same thing check if the user entered a scientific mode, in which case, in similar fashion, we're going to use a while loop to determine if the operator that the user is entering is a valid one or invalid one. In any case, that operator will be stored in the variable called operator. After this while loop is executed as many times as needed be, then we enter a switch statement, which is going to determine which valid operator the user entered, and respectively will call the method that is suitable for that input. After that is all executed, we want to prompt the user if they want to use the code or the program again, and the answer of the user will be stored in the string data type called over. Then again, in a similar fashion, we're going to use a while loop to determine if the user entered a valid input, which is a capital Y or a capital N, or invalid. In case of an invalid input, the while loop will prompt the user to input the correct thing and store it in the variable called over. After this while loop, we check if the user entered a capital Y or if the user entered a capital N. If the user entered a capital Y, then the again variable is going to be storing is going to be storing true. In the other case, it's going to be initialized to false and print out goodbye according to the description in Zybooks. And this variable again is going to determine, or what is stored in this variable is going to be determined if this while statement at the beginning is going to be executed again or not. As I said, the first iteration of this whole body in the mail method is granted because again was initialized to truth, but according to the user's input at the end of the code will determine if the code is going to iterate one more time or not. All right. We are prompt to enter something, and I'm going to enter something that is obviously invalid, for which I'll be prompt to do it again. As you can see, even if I enter the standard mode, it'll prompt me to enter it again because standard has to start with a capital S. And there we go. After which, I'm going to be cheeky and add something that I know ahead of time is not going to be valid, for which I'll be prompt to use a valid input, in which case I'll just use the minus. I'm prompted to use how many numbers I want to subtract. That would be 3 numbers of the, yes, double data type. There we go. We get the result as needed, and then we're again asked if we want to do this again, and I'll say hell no, but then again I'll be prompted that that was not valid, what the code expects, and I'll be okay, I'll do it again. That won't work, but this will. So this time we're gonna enter scientific mode. I'm gonna enter a cosine, and I'm gonna enter 0.01, and we get the result, and we're asked if we want to do this all over again. I will be nope, or nope, or no. As you can see, goodbye is printed, and at this stage you can see that the code is done executed. It has reached its endpoint.